Evening, everybody. My name is Jay, uh, and I will be your host for this Zoom conference. The purpose of this Zoom conference, which was requested by individuals and media groups of the community to the Minnesota-China Friendship Garden Society to elaborate about the St. Paul Chansa Friendship Garden Project at Phelan Park, and to clarify any confusion or misunderstanding. Before we get started, I would like to lay out some information or ground rules. This is an invited event only, and it is not open to the public. This Zoom conference will be an hour long, approximately, consisting of 2 sessions, a presentation, and a Q&A session. We will have 3 speakers. Please do not interrupt the speakers while they are presenting due to time limitation. If you have any questions, please write them down to be asked during the Q&A session. All participants will have a co-host status, meaning that you can record this Zoom conference to your computer or your smart devices and view or share it at a later date. Unfortunately, it cannot be live streamed from my end or from the co-host end, so you may have to share it when you at your convenience. Present here today or tonight are the Minnesota Chansa Friendship Garden Society and its advisory committee, the Hmong TV network, and supposedly supposed to be Hmong Global News as well, but he has an emergency, so he's unable to attend. And other TV networks was also invited. However, due to scheduling conflicts, they are unable to attend as well. However, before we begin, let's self-introduce ourselves, stating our full name and the organizations or organizations that we are affiliated with. And then from there, I will start introducing our speakers. And first, let me start it. I am Jay Her, and I'm the host tonight.
Oh, my name is sorry. My name is Tony Her. I'm from Hmong TV Network here in Minnesota.
Okay, I'm Francis Thao, the Hmong Advisory Group.
Hello. Sorry, I don't have my camera on. This is Mitch Lee with 3 Hmong TV here in the Twin Cities.
I'll go next. Bill Zychek, president of the Minnesota-China Friendship Garden Society, and a resident in the neighborhood.
My name is Linda Mealy Lohman, and I am the co-founder of the Minnesota-China Friendship Garden Society and the past president of the Garden Society for 15 years. And that society started as a committee of the U.S.-China People's Friendship Association Minnesota chapter, of which I was the vice president at the time.
Yeah, I'm Ying Zhang Her, the Hmong Advisory Committee chair for the Minnesota-China Friendship Garden Society.
Okay, wonderful. As of this point, I have made everyone a co-host, and if you wish to record this Zoom conference, you may. Okay, let me start by introducing our 3 speakers. The order of the speaker, they will choose to see who want to speak first. However, the three speakers are, first of all, is William Zaitchak, or Bill Zaitchak. He is a retired 3M employee whose roles is a project engineer, manufacturing manager, and a product engineer. He holds a bachelor's degrees from the University of Minnesota College of Science and Engineering, and a Bachelor of Arts in Business and Communication Development from Metro State University. He spent 4 years living and working in Malaysia, opening a new 3M manufacturing facility. He is presently on the board of the St. Paul Payne Phelan Community Council and volunteers at Merrick Community Services. Previously, president of the Eastside Neighborhood Development Company, and he also serves in the U.S. Army. Our next speaker is Linda Muelle Lohman. She is the co-founder of the Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society in 2005 and was its president from 2005 to 2020. She led the Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society through the phase 1 fundraising and phase 1 constructions of the grand opening in 2019, and was project manager of the 9 art stones. She holds a bachelor's degree in East Asian Studies, a master's degree in Chinese language and literature, and is fluent in Mandarin Chinese. She has taught Chinese at all levels, from preschool to college, and has traveled to China 23 times over nearly 40 years. She is a vivid gardener and has a deep interest in China, Chinese culture, and China gardens. She received her law degree from the University of Minnesota and works as a mediator, helping parties in conflict and avoiding going to courts and resolve their disputes. She is a past vice president and secretary of the U.S.-China People's Friendship Association, Minnesota chapter, and has helped to organize several public cultural China-related events. Lastly, is Ying Zhang. He is the chair of the Hmong Advisory Committee to the Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society. He is the son of a city councilman and the grandson of a royal councilman under the title Pet Sai from the King Sisavong of Laos. Ying earned his master's degree in the major of law and administration from the Institute of Royal de Trois de Administration in Vietnam. He is an entrepreneur and businessman, having business domestically and internationally. He is currently the president of the Hmong Heritage Preservation and Co. He has traveled numerous times as tourist or delegations to Laos, Thailand, and China. One of his most memorable times was leading the Hmong U.S. delegation to Thailand on December 1999 to present a silver Hmong thing as a gift to His Majesty the King Bomibol Abdulayadi on his 72nd birthday. His passions in life is doing public services, working with nonprofit organizations, especially involving the Hmong and Lao cultural events in the U.S. and internationally. From here, I would like to hand it over to Bill or Linda and Yang to see who wants to go first.
Great. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So what we're here to talk about is this project that was started by the Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society, and that is the St. Paul Changsha China Friendship Garden of Whispering Willows and Flowing Waters at Phelan Park in St. Paul, Minnesota. And the image you're seeing here was a conceptual design that was created several years ago to show generally what is the overall picture that that we are looking for building at this site. And we're going to have some other pictures to show you what is at the site now and what may be coming soon. So it's important to understand that all of this involves the sister city relationship between St. Paul and Changsha in Hunan province, China. And you can see here, there's a picture of then St. Paul City Mayor Latimer met with the Changsha mayor to sign the Sister City Agreement in 1988. Since that time, we have nurtured that relationship over many decades that has brought us to the point that we are today, to have this beautiful gift from Changsha that you'll see in the photos soon here. Many of the people that are on the board of the Minnesota-China Friendship Association were on the board of the U.S.-China People's Friendship Association at the time this relationship was formed, and have been very active in that relationship. And just to remind you that we are a nonprofit organization. We have a all volunteer board, and we have no paid staff. As the president, neither I nor Bill received any compensation for that. It was all volunteer. And I myself have put in thousands and thousands of hours on this project over a couple of decades now. And our mission is to establish China Friendship Gardens in Minnesota based on the sister city relationships. And right now we're focused on the St. Paul Changsha relationship. And our goal is to make these China Gardens be a place for enjoyment, education, and to benefit the public as a means to enhance the friendship and understanding between the peoples of China and of the United States. And the first element that was in the ground at Phelan Park is this beautiful meditation statue. I don't know if you've seen that there over by the picnic pavilion. It was created by Master Lei Xin from Changsha, the sister city, in 2006 as part of a Public Arts St. Paul project. And as you can see, he is pictured on the left. He is now internationally famous because he created the Martin Luther King Jr. Stone of Hope Memorial in Washington, D.C., and that's him in front of that beautiful sculpture. And he has been very instrumental in this project and has supported it throughout since 2006 when we made his friendship. And I have traveled several times to China to his studios and watched him when he was first doing the mock-ups of this beautiful Martin Luther King Jr. sculpture in clay. And he is a lifetime friend now of ours. He made it possible for the creation of the sister park relationship between Phelan Park and Yanghu Wetlands Park in Changsha. And he is responsible for the beautiful gift of the Xiangjiang Pavilion that the city of Changsha gave to St. Paul and is now the centerpiece of the China Garden. So that's a little bit of the background here. Now let's talk a little bit about how we got from this to where we are today, and I'm going to turn it over to Bill.
So there was a required revision of the master plan for Phelan Park that began in 2010. And I was on the district council at that time, and I was part of the task force to review the master plan. And one of the elements of that plan that Parks and Rec brought forward was the idea of a China garden at Phelan Park. And that became part of the plan. It was approved by the district council, by the city council, by the metropolitan council. And shortly after that, a meeting was held, well, actually several years after that, a meeting was held by the district council to see what interest there was in the neighborhood for making China garden amenity a real possibility. And we called a meeting in 2014 at the Arlington Hills Library. And at that meeting, you can see over here, this meeting here, and we had a turnout of about 30 people, including Representative Tim Mahoney and his wife, and a representative of Fawn Her, and Betty McCullum, among others. And we discussed the possibility of what we'd want in a China garden at Phelan Park. And Linda did a presentation on what the whole sister city arrangement, just like you heard a minute ago, as well as features that would typically be in a China garden. And people brainstormed at that time everything they would like in that garden, and that garden to contribute to the community. So that led the following year to Fongher and Tim Mahoney obtaining $50,000 in legacy funding for design. And that money was spent by the Department of Parks and Rec, as well as architects in Changsha. Hunan Zhangke was our architectural firm. So we'd have an authentic Chinese garden design. And shortly after that, and you can also see, okay, now we're skipping around a little bit. So later in 2015, we had the legacy money. The mayor was making a trip to Changsha, and we came along on that trip. And then the sister park agreement was made, as well as a commitment from Changsha to provide us with a pavilion.
Yeah, not yet on that one.
I think we were in a bus trying to figure out what we were going to give them, because they were going to give us a pavilion. Remember?
Okay.
I remember saying, what are we going to give Changsha? They're going to give us a pavilion. And we decided on Snoopy sculptures or peanut sculptures. So we probably could go to the next slide.
Beautiful.
We didn't know. We said, well, we could give them canoes. We could give what is iconic about St. Paul that we could give them as a return gift for this pavilion they were going to give us. And we didn't know what pavilion they were going to give us or what style of pavilion, but we had to come up with something. And the suggestion was, how about some peanut sculptures? And we said, yeah. And it turns out in China, they're actually, they understand peanuts and they really enjoy the Peanuts characters and cartoons. And so it gave us an opportunity for a little creativity. And Kali Her became the Hmong artist for Lucy.
Kali Thao.
Not like Tao, I'm sorry. And also we had, okay, help me with.
Shen Yudong was the Chinese artist that we commissioned.
And he created a number of brush paintings of iconic Minnesota birds and trees, et cetera, to go on a Snoopy doghouse. So all of these were created. All of these were created as a result of that gift that Changsha offered us. So. So we shipped those out in 2018, and in return, Hunan Zhangke sent over a dozen artisans to assemble a pavilion, and the pavilion came in 5 different containers. And that summer, the pavilion, as well as the Hmong Heritage Wall, were installed at the garden. You could go.
You want to say something about the collaboration?
Go ahead.
Okay. This construction part of the process was really a collaboration between the Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society, working very closely with the St. Paul Parks and Rec architects, and then of course with the Changsha Hunan Zhangke architects. So it was an effort that involved a lot of people and a lot of hours. And it was very rewarding. We had good participation from the community coming and watching what was going on and being very supportive.
So the other aspect of this that we didn't quite mention was in 2015, we were told we were going to get a pavilion, but it wasn't until 2016 that they told us we were going to get a replica of their famous I Want Ting. And that pavilion in Changsha is one of 4 famous pavilions in all of China. So this is a very unique structure and something, a bit of a treasure that we have here in St. Paul. So the following year, the West Archway Gate was installed and other elements of the first phase of the garden were completed, and we had a grand opening in July of 2019. And the mayor was there, and you can see Senator Fong He was there, and you can see other individuals. Tim Mahoney's back there. Linda's up there with her fist in the air. And a delegation from Changsha was also present. Later that year, we returned to Changsha to dedicate the 5 peanut sculptures. And so it was one of the larger delegations they had to actually work with. I think there were 35 to over 40 people that came on that trip for that dedication, and sort of overwhelmed their local external affairs department. But it was a wonderful experience, and we were able to meet with the local city people in Changsha, and later many of us took separate trips around China. Many of the Hmong representatives went to different sites with Fong He and Ying, and some of us went and looked at actual Hmong villages in Hunan on our own. So it was a wonderful experience. Dai Tao was along on that trip too. He represented the city. Senator Fong He was a senior politician, so those two did all of the official ceremonies.
So let's look at what is actually in the ground. Go ahead, Bill.
So this is a fairly recent photo of the pavilion, and you can see apparently this fall. And this year, or actually 2021, we actually did the first planting, and there'll be more plantings to come as we but this is a fall shot, and I believe you have a winter shot as well, right? There it is. So someone explained to me that a garden is never done, and that's certainly true right now of our Chinese garden, our friendship garden. And incrementally, we're adding more features to it every year.
And this pavilion has a lot of iconic, classic China garden symbolism on it. And we've got that information on the back of the donor wall at the park so that visitors to the park can learn more about what that symbolism is. But there are chrysanthemums and peonies and clouds and all the traditional symbols that you would see, and visitors can then learn what does that symbolism mean in Chinese culture. So it's very special.
There's actually 2 poems on the columns in the front, and they're also explained on the donor stanchion as to the translation of those poems. And the Hmong Heritage Wall was actually the first feature to be installed. And all of it's a collaboration of both Hunan Hmong as well as St. Paul Hmong in terms of the symbols on the wall.
For the work done.
And those symbols are all explained on the donor stanchion as well.
And this wall is made out of pink granite and was created in Changsha but I was the intermediary between the Hmong Advisory Council and the Changsha architects to make sure that the details of those symbols that would represent the Minnesota Hmong were very accurate. And we spent many hours with communications back and forth between China and our Hmong advisory group to make sure that, particularly on the geng, the musical instrument, that was accurate. But you'll notice some of the symbols there are symbols of the Changsha Hmong, and some of them are symbols of the Minnesota Hmong. So it really shows that work of collaboration that we were able to achieve with this beautiful work of art. For some reason, my screen is, there we go.
It's West Entrance Archway with the Chinese name of the garden on the top, Liu Ming Yuan. It's Willow Bright Garden. Willows are unique to Phelan Park. For the most part, St. Paul doesn't want willows in its parks. But in Phelan, because of the water features, etc., willows are very prevalent. And basically, Ming is bright and is also the Chinese character for Minnesota. And that's a garden naming stone. The stone was put on the ground there in 2019, and we're finally going to put it on a proper foundation this coming year.
And how heavy is that stone?
It's 14,000 pounds.
And it has 3 languages on it.
That was the last feature to be installed in 2018, which was a donor stanchion, which includes all the donors and the history of the project. And on the other side is an explanation of all of the calligraphy and other languages, symbols, etc., that are used in the garden. And finally, in 2018, actually, it started earlier than that, but we formally created 2 committees, advisory committees for the Garden Society, both Chinese and Hmong. And you can read through there what their roles and responsibilities are. But the Hmong committee actually started at a community meeting at Hope Community Academy in 2016. And then it was formally finalized in 2018 with this responsibility. So we have meetings where these 2 committees are talking back and forth about the aesthetics of this particular calligraphy or the aesthetics of this particular symbol in the garden. And these things can go on for hours while we try to discuss and come up with the best solution.
And we really wanted to make sure we had good input from representatives from both the Chinese community and the Hmong community as we went through the process. We have both Hmong and Chinese on our board, but we wanted to have a bigger pool of a group from each community to draw on. And so we set up these responsibilities for them to really establish some lines of communication between the board and these members of the community. And their responsibilities were to make recommendations to us on various aspects of the China Garden and design aspects. And of course, also they have a role in identifying potential donors and helping with that capital campaign. Their role really is to make recommendations to the Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society board. We're the ones that created them, so they make recommendations to us. And then the board has final decision-making authority, but we always do it in consultation with St. Paul Parks and Rec and the Changsha architects to make sure that we can be consistent with those aesthetic values of a classical China garden. So let's turn then to this 9 Art Stones project. This was our project in 2021. I was the project manager for this project, and it started with learning about a grant opportunity from the Minnesota Humanities Center. And I worked with several board members to draft a grant at the end of, or fall of 2020 for this Art Stones project. And at the time, we were thinking of 9 art stones, and 5 of them would have Chinese calligraphy on it that were very significant to our group. There was going to be 4 pieces of original calligraphy, 1 character each, that was done by Professor C.C. Shao, who was one of the co-founders of the Garden Society. And he was a quite well-known a person with calligraphy. And then we had another piece of original artwork by Wei-Ming Lu. Wei-Ming Lu was on that first trip in 1988 with Mayor Latimer to form the Sister City relationship. And he was an advisor and at one point a board member of the China Garden Society. And he was also quite internationally known calligraphist. So we had these 5 pieces of art, and I wanted to find a place to use that art in the garden, because traditionally in a classic Chinese garden, there are stones and other pieces of calligraphy in the garden. So we were luckily awarded the grant for about $20,000. And so we originally had these 5 Chinese stones. We were going to have 1 Hmong stone and 1 Dakota stone in order to recognize that this land that the China Garden sits on is Dakota land. And we thought it was important to recognize that. Then we had 2 more stones that we didn't know what we were going to do with them, but we thought maybe it would be some kind of symbolism from either the Hmong or Chinese culture. As it turned out, the Hmong Advisory Committee had very strong opinions that they thought it should be there should be 3 Hmong stones. And they gave some pretty persuasive talks to us about why that should be the case. And in the end, that is what we did. So we have 5 stones with Chinese calligraphy, 3 stones with Hmong, and 1 Dakota stone written in Dakota language. You'll notice that none of the stones have English on it, and that is on purpose. That is consistent with China Garden principles, and we wanted to adhere to that. So the meaning of all of these characters and the proverbs that are on the stones are found on the donor wall and also on our website for visitors to see. So once we decided what we were going to do, we spent about 300 hours just looking for the appropriate 9 stones. And then another 100 or 200 hours to determine what the content would be on the stones, and where do you let me go back one. Where do you place the piece of calligraphy on the stone? How big should the calligraphy be? Should it be black? Should it be red? Who is going to carve it? Who is going to install it? Lots of decisions that went into this process. And this was done with the Art Stones committee that was created. And that committee was artists, architects, and other community members from both the Chinese community and the Hmong community. So we're going to focus here now on there are actually 4 stones now in the garden that have Hmong on them. So 3 of the art stones and then the naming stone. And you can see that 2 of them are in white Hmong dialect and 2 of them are in green-blue Hmong dialect. The Hmong Advisory Committee had made recommendations to the Art Stones Committee about what would go on these stones, what proverbs would go on the stones, what language they would be in, and how big the font should be and what the font type should be. Then the Art Stones Committee brought that to the board and the board approved what the Art Stones Committee was recommending. And so then these stones were engraved and installed in 2021. And then we had a large gathering with an unveiling of these stones in 2021. So here's a picture of the unveiling. We unveiled all of the stones in a very beautiful ceremony, starting with the Dakota stone. And these are some pictures of the unveiling of the Hmong stones. And then there was also a Hmong feng shui ceremony to mark the occasion as for the site of the Phase 2 proposed Hmong Plaza. So I'm going to turn it over to Ying now to talk a little bit about his perspective on this process that he went through with both the Art Stones Committee and then the board itself.
Nhà rong trong mong xuất là nữa cái cúi thay yên hay cúi tụ cái chair nhà trong the Hmong Advisory Committee cúi trâu sai luôn the lu trong sân lang cái cho Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society tàu thọ cho mong cả sai ít tuần này một ban bộ hay là ít ban này nó chỉ cúi trâu sai luôn the lu trong sân lang đó. Đó là của cho bộ member tan cho cái volunteer cho cái nhà lúc chạy tour ban lao sư cho là hoa assessment cái cho bao nhiêu mà dùng để cái Linda nhà thằng tăng đó bị tàu lao lu cái xong trên cầu chùa bị tàu ilu cái mua sầu ổn để mua lao là cái bị tàu pelu rồi lúc xong ở trên những cái ino cái bị mua ilu sầu để mua lớn gì cái mua alu lạnh cái bị sầu tàu cho cái đầu nó chỉ là ta pelu mong cái advisory committee nè nó pelu tàu cho chú ý để có sầu lý chẳng ha pelu ta chỉ là ta có lý chẳng tại nhỏ nó chỉ bị sử dụng cái rubber rule cho lu khán giả bị cho meeting á thì bị cho meeting chỉ bị số lượng tham lu ta chỉ là cái cho chung số lượng giờ ta bị lu meeting họ tổ chức chủ trong trang in đăng này thì bị sáng lang chỉ tàu thì chủ giờ thầu tổ sáng lang tàu là nó chỉ bị chủ cho chung phụ dụng thì chỉ bị là họ nó chỉ cho bao nhiêu nó giờ bị sai lù là họ lù thì thầu bị sai tàu lên nó chỉ bị một sang một cho cái cho board cho main board thì board giờ cho cái giá trị họ cầu nè thì bị thầu bị sau tàu lên nó chỉ lù bị cho bao nhiêu chỉ bao lù giờ mong là sự dùng để cái Linda nhà hàng tàng được số là mua cho khá là mua mong là mua chỉ riêng còn nhà sau nhà đầu nữa nhà sau nhà chân đầu số cái sau đầu số mong cái sau đầu mong cho khá cái sau đầu khá chỉ cho khá sau đầu khá rồi khá lúc bao nhiêu tàng bao nhiêu sáng cho số sau đầu số cho số chỉ lúc bao nhiêu tàng số dùng sáng bên mong bên lúc bao nhiêu bên sau đầu mong tàng cho bên dùng sáng主要做赌博，很多个比较忙，女才还在基本上的忙，有怎么上到按揭呢？都 HMONG， 喏，有咁么少年的赚到钱的忙呢？在美国了，那就确定没有确定到手，但是嘛，叫那边都我到大家路走大都到了呢。cái thầu cái mua tụ bộ mong chỉ走山呢，就比他们只叫个都走东街，叫蒙包单，蒙 cho nó cho ua mong lu mong bị mình chỉ chân tới đầu tù nữa bị lu lu tại bị nó mà giờ bị lu advisory board member ha lu Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society lu board bị sụtเลยmình chỉ nữa bên chỉ nữa thì bên chỉ trong tuổi sụtเลยthành trong cái chỗ này bị mình chỉ họ nữa thì bỏ hết ta sauเลยbị sau giờเลยvì hiện tại lúc học pa hắn được cái chọn đông tới lại lúc vang phong yêu nó mà yêu chủ mua khó cái sau lên tới vì hiện tại nếu mua khó hết ta culture collaboration nếu mua khó culture education nếu mua khó culture connection nó thì thay đổi ta bị sau lên tới vì ta cho mong nhớ bị sửa bố yếu tổ bù hết ta bị sau để mong cho mong nhớ càng tu khứ được họ tổ chủ là bù ta bị sau để mong chỉ họ bị yếu sau để ăn kỹ nữa bố tổ thì bố nhận chỉ là còn để ăn kỹแต่ HMONG họ do English นะhọรู้ไม่เลยกันเนอะที่หมดตัวปตหาเลยฮะแต่是嘛编辑咗蒙都就端住咗蒙路蒙嚟個行到波係的如果你必修我是必修都要了要做乜蒙咧蒙零我見又好有一項 education 咧有一項嘅教個教個教必都只個必蒙必只麼個到學到開就都是就看到有路學拍嘅過來你就蒙都就端住我不係的họ họ giờ lại nó nè chỉ biết họ biết tu nụ nó chỉ cho mỗi cho số chúa từ cái sáng đầu nhớ hú YouTube là nhớ hú Facebook chỉ tao hay ta biết yếu chủ ô nụ chủ cho chữ mong yếu chủ lại ngàn là report report là yếu chủ cho mong chỉ cho mong cho nó cho我市场说的补的家的嘛，我来好才要，假如呢要知道包对在个别我弄，为的别我弄别去我来好别角度弄，好的别么样好的呢，别做弄也垃圾，别做弄也帮着 Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society Board， 路么我จะ弄是不上个别帮他对，个别帮他的。不搞别样对这不要看到，那这别做农业做到是毕竟上我都叫忙用了个做零做多，但是别做农业做好，那这别只么一张ใจ哈的，别有我做样这别当初叫忙我做错多呢，谈个好的忙来么我打那这好只么一张ใจ但是叫数脚等着上到嘛去那个每一张ใจ领导也别去我呢，就看到去真啊，他个到这么ใจ都别我还接别做农呢，这个别么阿鲁巴些蒙来阿鲁巴些蒙零，那的看我也看个比较蒙有到容下哈的罗。cho nụ cho chữ nó hữu lu đồng sinh phổ là cho Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society Board cứ cho họ cho tổ lu project nó nè cho tổ lu vang phong chữ nó thì cho họ tăng cho họ bố tu hay là nhà sâu nhà chân tử mi giờ mong mi sông để mong sửa sông để sửa khác sông để khác giờ lên nó biết trả lời một sâu vấn đề mong alu đồ mong plei alu đồ mong lạnh bị nhị bao rồi hả bị lu hay nên mong nè muốn đào họ ha chỉ cho lù họ mong á mong xí mong lù yang但是nhớ hú cái phần trong ban cho trong giờ mong plei mong lạnh thì bị chả mỗi y bang mong de alu cho lu sâu lên nó thì khó nó chỉ là nhỏ làm sâu nữa giờ lo tại chủ sâu để mong sai giờ thì nó lúc chủ gì cái tại yêu chủ mốc họ để mong long mo the angkit ha pi uli patak to hand the on the UK le pin jin dao tu cho nó cho wo chấm tu giờ tu gì rồi cho lúc mong nè bao hết à số trời giờ mong ý dạng đỡ một lần mong lại là giờ mong để sau dạng từ là tàu có sau hắn đỡ giờ hà từ lấy có lúc số của sau hà từ lúc số sự cho đỡ cho trong tù bù rong ta khó bị ôn nó dạng nữa của cho thằng một trò chơi lên nó của sáng màเขาnó trò chơi đó các tụi béo ai turn the mic to you.
All right, thank you, Ying. One of the things that people often ask us is, why do you have Hmong elements in a China garden? And that's a really good question, because China gardens have a couple of thousand years of history of following certain traditions, and Hmong elements are not part of that. So why do we have that here? As the co-founder and past president, my opinion is that this is a friendship garden, and it's a sister city project between St. Paul and Changsha. Changsha has about 2 million Hmong that live in the Hunan province. And of course, here in Minnesota, we have a population of almost 90,000 Hmong, the largest urban Hmong population in the US. So if this China garden can fully represent the sister city relationship that includes that recognition of the Minnesota Hmong's ancestral connection to this area in Changsha, then that is a good thing, we have determined. And so that is why we have Hmong elements in a China garden. But people should remember that this is first and foremost a classic China garden, and it has certain principles and traditions that it must follow. But we do have these beautiful Hmong elements that really enhance it. And this garden is unique in all of the world because of that. And St. Paul should be very proud of that.
Thank you. Yeah, because I think that many community in St. Paul, many different community in St. Paul, Hmong have the Hmong element in the China Friendship Garden. Yeah, exactly what Linda said, because our ancestor is in Changsha, in China. We just came from China, no longer to Southeast Asia, and come to this country. So this is very, very important to reconnect to our ancestor relationship.
Yeah, this is sorry to interrupt, but Mr. J, our time is coming up to very close to the end. So I'd just like to continue with this meeting without questions.
I have some question for Linda and Ying. As I represented the Hmong TV network here in Twin City or in Minnesota, since we have a little bit of disagreement on the Hmong community, how you gonna solve this problem? I mean, you gonna have to change it, or what you gonna do? I mean, not a very, very big issue, but it's just small issue like Ying said. So can you explain a little bit what is the next step? I mean, this is complete, or it just you need to do next phrase too?
So very good question. So of course we're aware of all of the controversy of some members of the community.
Yes.
We've also gotten a lot of support from many members of the community saying
Yes.
how wonderful it is, how inclusive we are to have both dialects here, and for them to be equally represented, 2 of each in the garden.
Yes. Yes.
Now, as you know, as you may not know, these stones are in a temporary location because we are now beginning phase 2 that I hope Bill will have a chance to talk about in a moment. And these stones are very near the location of where the Hmong Plaza will be. So the location of these stones will actually be integrated into that phase 2 Hmong Plaza design as we go forward with that planning, and they will likely be moved. So that's number one. These are not a permanent location.
Okay.
Number two, I know there's been suggestions to take off the MOOB and put HMONG, the English word for Hmong, on there. But we are, our goal is to have no English inside of the grounds, and Hmong, HMONG is an English word. So so there's that. There's also the thought of having HMOOB on there instead of MOOB, but then how could we as the Garden Society choose one dialect, sort of erase one dialect to add another dialect that would combine with white Hmong for the first word and green Hmong for the rest of the phrase. And so that grammatically may not make sense. So we did consult with a number of scholars and academicians about this, and we are still working through what the next step is here. But we are feeling that because this is so balanced right now between white Hmong and green Hmong, if we were to change one of the stones to be white Hmong, then there would be 3 white Hmong stones and 1 green Hmong, and that would not be balanced then in the park. So it's a bit of a thorny issue for us to deal with, but we are hopeful as we go forward here that we can come up with a solution that that everyone will be happy with. But all of these stones right now are temporary, and they will be incorporated into phase 2 in a new way.
Okay. 他应个古农个阿贝路哈达个被城市这样的是吗？古农个阿贝路哈达个要哈达蒙基础造下来那个梅路 board advisory 梅不么一下。bài lò nhớ được mẹ là giờ ít khó tụi chạy hả ta bê mẹ ở lồng là mẹ chỉ lồng là giờ mẹ ở cha của người rồi lên nó là giờ mẹ bộ tao xí thẳng số khăn nó
yên xí thẳng là nữa xí thẳng là ta chỉ biết chỉ mua ít tụi chạy lụt giá trị trong lấy bộ ta cái Linda ha béo tụi hà nè bê giờ ba bố ha ha ta khó tụi giọt khó tụi chi giọt thì biết chỉ một tụ chạy lụt giá trị ta yo ô lên nó chạy giọt thì cái lấy một ô nè thì biết chỉ một tụ chạy ta chỉ chua yang khó cái cầu nó khó final decision do Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society lúc còn họ cho board nè board giá trị ta chỉ chua yang cái ô lên bộ ta cái biết thằng ta họ biết một cho mong phải trong nhá cán tu nó nè bù hay ta họ giỏi lại họ biết họ giỏi lại nó nè chỉ họ nó là cho bùa như bao lời gì thầu biết muốn chi cho mong scholar cho mong tu trợ tu gì hả nè chỉ biết cho mong muốn chi sự biết như cho cái bùa cái lưu số Minnesota China Friendship Garden Society trong buồn rụp biết muốn chi là ô lê bờ tăng Linda hà họ thì thì họ tăng xin nó chỉ do Lu City Park and Recreation Department ha trong buồn lù nhóc có trở thẳng tại yếu ô lê chẳng chạy dạo nó chỉ có bông lụt buồnเลยnè
ok giờ lại có nó chạy cái rong sa mà cái cú lúc xưa ha cú lúc mấy số lần thẳng để chúng mình nói cái mấy số lần cho ha cái thank you Linda for let me be Hmong TV be part of it, and I appreciate your time that let me ask you a question there. So that's all I have for this evening.
I have one other comment that I thought of is that the Hmong community should be very grateful to the Hmong Advisory Committee for their hard work in pushing to have 3 of the 9 stones be Hmong rather than the one that we had originally planned on with maybe one other stone with a Hmong symbolism on it. So the Hmong Advisory Committee really did a good job representing the Hmong community and advocating for them in this project.
Okay. Thank you.
Should we introduce you to how the community engagement process is going to work as we go through phase 2 now in 2022? Do you have a
Linda.
few more moments?
Hey, Lynn, and can I ask a quick question here before we move on to the next one here?
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, I know let's talk a little bit about that controversy that we have with the writings on the stones. Are there, I'm not sure if this falls into the committees, what they can and can't do, but I was just curious. I know that, were there any community engagement with the Hmong community when they're writing or putting up the stones or what should be written on there? Have there been just engagements with the community? I was just curious about that.
Sure. The way this process was set up, because this is a fairly small aspect of the China Garden project, this is a $20,000 project compared to the 1.5 million so far that we have spent. And so we don't do the full-blown community engagement that we would do for that we are doing for phase 2 and that we did for phase 1. So the way we got community input was through the Art Stones Committee and the makeup of that committee. I already described that, and then the input from the Hmong Advisory Committee, which is representative of the Hmong Committee.
Okay. Thank you. And I just want a quick comment here. Thank you, Linda, for volunteer your time, and also want to thank the advisory committee for their time, putting their time into this. I think it's been a great project, and I think we're looking forward to enjoy it for many more years to come. And thank you so much for all of the work that you've done.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill, do you want to talk just a minute or two about this process that we're starting now?
We're right at the hour. Do we have to cut it off at an hour, or can we take a few more minutes, Jay? Is it okay if I continue?
Yes,
or-
we can. You can continue. Yes, you'll be fine.
Jay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. This is Tony. I have to leave because I have the radio program going right now. So I'm sorry that I have to leave, but everything should be fine. The way you guys doing, it's tremendous. And I myself, applaud for you guys, the job that you guys did with the Changsha and with the China Friendship Garden. And I would applaud for the Hmong advisory too. You guys been work very hard. Listening to you guys, what you do here, it's really, really hard work.
It is, and thank you for saying that. And as much praise and support as we get, with any public project, there's going to be somebody who may not be happy with it, and we are learning how to manage that. We would be happy to provide this presentation to you so you can see the last couple of slides about what is being planned for phase 2.
Okay. Okay.
We'll get those to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
So should we continue with Mitch, or does Mitch have to leave as well?
I'm gonna, Linda and the rest of the group, I have a 7 o'clock interview to attend to. So I'm gonna leave you guys, but I would love to be able to, if you can send me the PowerPoint, that'd be great. I would love to be able to look it over.
Great. Thank
And
you so
just-
much for your support.
Just one quick question here. Can you, I guess I'm gonna stick around just a little bit here, but can you explain just kind of give us, you know, what's to come in 2022? What are some of the phases that are going to be worked on?
Yes.
Also, let's go back to that first slide. Can you back it up again? There we go. All right, so what's happening in 2022 is we've designed design process for phase 2, and that includes an extensive community engagement process. We have a design advisory committee that's comprised of various members of the community as well as our advisory groups. And it's open to anyone who's really interested from the community to be involved in that, on that group. But it will be brought to public meetings as well for input. So right now we're looking at.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? I just had myself on mute.
Okay. Yes, I can hear you, man. So thank you for joining.
We're looking at.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We're getting some funny feedback there, but the
I
four
think Mitch
features,
had to go,
I think so. I think that's,
but maybe we can, since this is being recorded, maybe you can just finish that off.
right. I'll just finish up. There are 4 key features to what's being designed and going through the community engagement process right now. And the first is the Hmong Plaza. That's the primary feature of the next phase. The next major feature is a Chinese moon bridge. And then the last 2 features are a permanent donor wall. And right here underneath this is actually kind of a minor feature where we're providing another entrance to the pavilion, as well as a Chinese table seating area. And then finally, do you have the extension of the garden?
Oh, no, I don't have that.
Okay, so the fourth major feature is actually an extension of the garden from the pavilion down to the channel. And it'll be a major extension of the garden. So there are a total of 3 phases to this project. The final phase is an example of a literati garden, a Chinese literati garden, which would include a small pavilion, moon gate, walled in areas, and another small ting with connecting area there. It's called the Lakeside Pavilion. Could be used for performances as well as other. It will have a number of plazas where people could perform or just go out and practice Tai Chi. But it's a small but very accurate example of a literati garden in China. I just wanted to say one thing about the Hmong features in our garden. This style of garden is really more of a public Chinese garden. And so I don't think we are, stuck as hard to the normal features of a China garden. And in Minnesota, we're the Han Chinese immigrants in Minnesota are a smaller population than the Hmong Chinese. And I know that your connection with China is much more remote by probably a century or so, but you're the Chinese we intend to serve. Yeah, we've had a tremendous amount of support from local individuals. About 400, not 400 individuals, but over 300 individuals have donated $1,000 or more. We've had some institutional support and city and state support, but the bulk of the funding for phase 1 came from individuals living in the metropolitan area. And we've been able to raise $1.5 million for that purpose. So
And we'll need about another 3 million in addition to the million we have for phase 2.
I think Linda's being optimistic there. We may need. It's going to be a major project, major fundraiser. I think if you look at this next phase, we're bringing to St. Paul, to the metropolitan area, to Minnesota, a Hmong Plaza. And it will be unique in the state of Minnesota, and I believe unique in the United States. The only other Hmong plazas you will find are in China. I could be wrong about that, but those are the only other ones I know of.
All right, and that's our presentation. Thank you. Jay, are there any other questions?
No,
Anything else you would like us to address?
I think that should be clear enough, I think, and I think that should be it. I think you guys have addressed pretty much everything that's needed to be addressed. So
Very good. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
sure, you're welcome.
Thanks.
In that case, I will like to conclude this conference. And good night. And we could have some other time to talk again.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Good
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.